Hey guys, it's Matt. Certain types of presentations don't fit into the old-fashioned radio show mold. I'm calling this a voice in the night. The old-fashioned radio show will get stupid. It will have stupid tuck guard promos and advertisement sponsors that don't really exist, that actually some people believe exist. This may be darker. It may be thinking bigger, but it also emphasizes the positives. And just when I go to record the voice in the night, the not milk wants to stop me. I'll be right back. Things for us right now are not ideal. That's putting it mildly, are not ideal. If you would have come to me the early part of 2019 and said this is where the world would be, with CV being the biggest part of me not understanding what, quote, they could do to the world, I would have never believed it. I don't think anybody would have believed what we've witnessed, mostly in the people around us over the last 3 years. But the news ultimately is actually pretty good. I'm going to try to focus on the positive as much as possible. This is not Invasion of the Body Snatchers like the movie. In many ways, it is like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. But what if you were the only one? Think about that. What if you were the only one that could see? There's one that can see. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Donald Sutherland screaming at potentially the last unsnatched person, at least in that part of San Francisco. We have tremendous numbers. This is very encouraging. As many people, the billions and billions, no matter how real people are or not potentially, just how many people are at this channel or channels like this or different alternative platforms or over at certain blogs. And if you add us up around the world, it would, those that truly see, it has to be in the millions. Of course, would have to be in the millions. And think how fortunate that is, even if they're not right around you, even if there's no one else in your family unit who can see, no one else in your group of friends who can see, knowing there are millions and millions of people like us out there is incredibly fortunate and pretty much the best news to get us through all of this. I mean, again, have you seen Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Revenge of the Sith, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where literally everyone is getting snatched. And if you're that last person left in San Francisco, you have no one to talk to. You can't approach your brother or your sister or your mother or your father or even your children. Per Invasion of the Body Snatchers, if your children find out that you're not snatched, they will point and scream at you when they're finished their macaroni and cheese. We are in a far better situation. And if anybody relatively new would be saying, well, isn't it possible we'll all be snatched up? Isn't it going to 100% snatched per the way the Donald Sutherland movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers presents? I don't think so. Because once we've determined we possess, for whatever reason, a certain degree of immunity, then I think that immunity holds. I don't think that immunity, maybe we'll lose a few people, but I don't think for the most part, once we've proven to be immune, I don't see any tactic or even technology they could employ where I'm going to run out and get excited to vote in the next election, if you see what I'm saying. We're pretty prepared at this point for anything. So whatever millions exist will continue to exist. But we get back to that conversation we had roughly a year and a half ago, maybe, about the cement drying. And unfortunately, I believe the cement is pretty dry at this point. There still could be millions of people out there that, whatever characteristics we possess where we can see through all of this, there could be millions that still have those abilities and see through a lot of it, but have never run in the circles in which we have run. We can bring those people along. There's some wet cement pockets out there, but there was that hardening of the cement period, and I believe it has hardened on most people. I really do. Unless it's not, unless, quote, they really make some miscalculations and certain mistakes, or a technology backfires, or whatever it may be that could be a catalyst. At some point, the princess was sleeping, right? And she was awakened via the kiss, and what's that? Whatever metaphor that could be, but the circumstances had to come together perfectly for the princess to be awakened. The cement has hardened on my cousins or my Tony. I don't see them coming around. But the fact that I know there are millions of people like you out there, that gives me tremendous solace. These words come to me. I have no idea what they mean. And it's fun to do, so we'll do it here. This isn't going to turn into the slapstick of the old-fashioned radio show. This is more for, say, what was the kid that said, I see dead people, who I'm thinking of the movie Secondhand Lions, when he was stuck with Uncle Hub out there sitting on the porch in West Texas. They had no TV. I don't think they had a radio. See, this is for somebody sitting on that West Texas porch, a voice in the night who can see, but the people around them, basically are snatched, and the world seems to be a scary place. It seems to be closing in on all of us. So I don't want to get too stupid, but it's fun to do, where imagine, again, anybody in the normal world listening to the last 5 minutes of what I just presented, how insane that would be. What did you stumble upon, Uncle Jed? There's a group of people who believe they're different or special, who can see through all of reality, and reality, the way these people are describing it, seems to be one gigantic trick, and these people think they're special and can see through it and believe, per the verbiage and language the insane narrator's using, that other people around them are akin to being snatched, like the Donald Sutherland movie. These people are out of their mind. Come listen to this, Uncle Jed. Imagine what those people would think if they could listen to some of this. Yet we know every bit of what I'm saying is correct. And I know there are a group of big thinkers who say, aptly so, that, well, as our group gets smaller and smaller, Matt, we must, as big thinkers and the wise men and the wise woman would say, we must keep on the table that we are delusional. The crazy man in the asylum doesn't believe that he's delusional or there's something wrong with him. The world, there's something wrong with the world. We must keep on the table. This is our situation. No, because there's just too much absurdly second-grade objective fact in our favor. The one I'm just thinking of that I pulled out a week or two ago, when you fold up, say, 10 or 12 or 15 layers of, in the United States, we have Reynolds wrap, or Reynolds aluminum foil. When you fold it up like 20 times over, and then you can make something like you can make a model airplane out of Reynolds wrap, that does not go through a solid steel beam that's heavier than an 18-wheeler truck. That's objective reality. Okay, this is not, we have too many of these where the subjective argument, as maybe this group is actually crazy, that does not fly. We have too many common sense breakdowns that the people around us simply, for some weird reason, can't see. And if it's not a complete reality common sense breakdown, which we have thousands of these now, this sort of shit comes into us basically weekly at this point. Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees baseball, Aaron Judge just hit home run number 61 to tie Roger Maris of the Yankees for his record for 61 home runs, set 61 years ago in 1961. Judge also hit the homer in the Rogers Center, believe in Canada. Roger Maris hit in the Rogers Center. 61 homers to tie 61 in 1961, 61 years ago. Well, if that's all we had, it would be pretty strange. But I'll give you two guesses. You're only going to need one. Do you think the strangeness continued with this story and the gematria just kept having to flow out and hit you in the face like whatever they threw against the Mona Lisa? Here it comes. The article that reported on it, per the AP, so it was picked up thousands or tens of thousands of times by the bots, his 117.4 miles per hour drive off left-hander Tim Meza. Aaron Judge's 117.4, I don't believe there's any gematria there, but the obvious gematria is coming. Hit off left-hander Tim Meza, who is 8-1, as it's presented in this article, snapped a 3-3 tie and took just 3.8 seconds to land 394 feet from the plate. Pitcher Tim Mesa was 8-1, that's 9. In the center of the sentence, it snapped a 3-3 tie, the 33, and took 3.8 seconds, which is 11. You have the 9, followed by the 33 in the middle, followed by the 11. Not to mention the gematria I can't probably even tap into because gematria is not my thing for whatever they mean by the 394-foot hit and the 117.4 miles per hour off the bat hit. Was it so important for them to deliver 117.4 miles per hour off the bat, which equals 13? Was it so important for this sentence to have the 13? It seems to be. I have no idea why. I don't know what reality gets out of this, what power it generates from this, or if this is just a side effect of it operating in its weird ways, and this side effect has to come through to real people who can see. I don't know. I don't care. But to me, it just gets back to what I said not too long ago. The world is not very real. Well, if we had one of these that came every 10 years, you could argue it was a coincidence. But now we have one every 10 minutes. Jeff kept researching. You didn't think that was the end of it, did you? New York Yankees franchise records. Most home runs in a season hit at home. 33 is the new number. Babe Ruth, not the candy bar, had held the old record with 32. Second player in franchise history to hit 33 home runs by the All-Star break. Most by Yankees players since Roger Maris hit 33 home runs in 1961. He led the league in defensive runs saved as a right fielder, 19 runs saved, tied with Cody Bellinger, but given higher placing due to the efficiency by playing fewer innings. 775.1 versus 911.1 innings. So now you have the 33 used 3 times, and then the 9 paired with the 1-1, and then you have 19 runs saved. All in 4 sentences. Sorry. This is the voice in the dark. It needs to be more serious. SERIOUS. On August 16th, Judge hit it continues, a 457-foot home run at Citi Field that reached the third deck. He also broke a record for position players by striking out in, 33 consecutive games. He finished with 27 strikeouts in the entire postseason, a major league record. This record would be broken by Cody Bellinger in Game 7 of the 2017 World Series, just 11 days later. He finished with 27 strikeouts. 7 and 2 is 9. 9, and then the last part of the sentence was the 27 World Series 11 days later. The 9 paired with the 11. Oh, no. So when this sort of stuff comes daily or every 10 minutes or even more, depending on how much you want to sit there and research it in front of your reality generation machine internet computer, when it comes as often as it does, I reminisce back to an old video of mine, reminisce back in time to a video I made just a few days ago where I said the world isn't very real, and let me tell you what that means to me. And it's this sort of shit that comes nonstop in a conspiracy and reality generation machine that produces endless conspiracy, synchronicity, and gematria. This world to me isn't very real, and this is what it means to me. And by the way, guys, some of the comments were very strange. I mean, I know a lot of your names and avatars. I don't mean you guys, but there's some people that pop in and out. And some of the comments for when I presented The World Isn't Very Real were really bizarre, almost like they're in a separate reality. Like some people had no idea what I was saying. Like I presented it in the most basic way possible, just like I'm presenting this. A world that can present endless coincidence and gematria and what we just talked about just the last 5 or 10 minutes. The way I presented it in that video, The World Isn't Very Real, and what that means to me, I didn't think I could present that at a more basic level. And there were people commenting like they had no idea what I was saying. And it was so strange to them what I was saying. Like, what? What if every single line of every single news article for the next 10 years had a 33 in it? Every single line. Would those people still comment like they have no idea what I'm talking about, and to them the world is completely real? Maybe because those on the frequency will never see what we see. Then you say, well, why are they commenting under an old video? What were they even doing at your channel? I don't know. Maybe they were looking for cat videos. I don't know. So now we see endless news articles, headlines, Wikipedia articles, but the old story about the Transcontinental Railroad and its 911 miles per the Transcontinental Railroad. I'm talking about bot. Go bother someone else, bot. It's the Transcontinental Railroad. When it comes endlessly in all the Wikipedia, is there anybody out there listening to the sound of my voice on a dark night in West Texas on the porch with Uncle Hub? Is there anybody out there listening to the words coming out of my mouth that believes it's all planted? Really? With the Aaron Judge, New York Yankees, Roger Maris example, this is a real guy that has to hit a ball, And of course, then, I can hear you throwing rubber duckies. I can hear you screaming at me that, Matt, and this, look, all of this is on the table, and these debates will rage back and forth in our community forever. But the rubber ducky throwers right now are saying, Matt, obviously it's all, don't you know that baseball, it's all like World Wrestling Federation and WWE and WWF. And they waited. They needed the gematria. So he wasn't trying to hit a home run. They waited for the 61 years and the exact date they needed under the stars, and so all the gematria would work. And then they said, okay, Aaron Judge, then you hit that home run on this date. And as of right now, guys, I don't believe it works that way. A big segment of the truth community believes all of sports can be faked to such perfection where nothing can ever really be discovered or nothing can ever be really seen. I know there are obvious fake tackles in football that every so often pop up, but it can't. Sports, somebody throwing a ball at 100 miles an hour and swinging a bat at over 100 miles an hour, and there were balls that Aaron Judge hit a day or two or three before that went back way back to the outfield that could have gone out. No, it cannot be faked to that degree of what much of the truth community believes. There could be, per the reality's buttons and levers, there could be a magic involved, for however you want to call it, a dark magic. I mean, so Sergio, we started seeing this years ago, but one I remember very clearly was Sergio Garcia, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago, won the Masters. He had never won a, quote, major golf tournament. And a segment of the truth community came out and said, for this reason, it's faked. It's faked. You know what? No way. No way. If you ever played golf, you got to hit a ball. You got to hit the ball. You've got to put the putts in. There's no segment of truth. These are very intransigent. They're very similar in a way to the trans Paco to Paco army. And they're very, very, the truth community, they dig in and that Sergio Garcia winning the Masters, that's faked. Impossible. You've got to hit the balls. He didn't win at plus 30 over par, and everybody else just looked like they folded. And impossible. Same with this Aaron Judge. Okay, I know a big segment of the truth community, they held it back. They waited. The pitcher was in on it. The managers were in on it. No, he fouled too many balls off. He hit too many pop flies in the 3, 4, 5, 6 days preceding that if the wind was right, it could have gone out, giving him his 61. He's just such a good hitter. He can hit it out deep to left field, but not make it go out. No, this shit happens. I don't know. It's a dark magic of some kind, or these people are NPCs, or they're reality players. They're part of the reality itself. We're very different from them, but it's not in the traditional sense where the first grade truther can only return to what's in the bookends. It's just people in on it and it's faked. No, it's not that simple anymore, obviously. But looked at from the other side, you still can hold on to the word faked, just not in the way people think. Like the pitcher's in on it, he's going to throw a real easy one. No. If somebody comes forth and say, Matt, these creeps per their astrology or their black magic or whatever techniques they have or whatever they understand about reality that we don't, okay? If they just saw to it and under the stars or the gematria that Aaron Judge would do this and they knew he would do it and they looked into their dark crystal ball, that same witch that was the witch of the Sheriff of Nottingham, and they just kind of saw to it that way using dark means, you can still use the word faked. I hear you. but it's not in the second grade way of faked, like WWE wrestling, where the guy throws a fake elbow and the guy about to take the elbow knows what's coming, and the guy throwing the elbow knows what's coming. It's not that, although you understand what I'm saying. You still could use the word faked if all of these creeps knew that the 61 home runs would come at that particular day. There are a lot of theories that could come forth now to basically explain what happens, the event in sports, or whatever it is, that leads to the endless, ridiculous gematria. It could be as simple as, Matt, you've talked about people on the download, which is really no different than people that have tuned themselves or allowed themselves to be tuned to the reality's frequency or the not nil's frequency, and it gets into they know not what they do. Is somebody on the download that willingly tunes themselves to that frequency, will they simply do whatever the, quote, reality wants to deliver the absurd gematria, to make the event happen under a certain star or when their astrology is in the right place? So if Aaron Judge is tuned to the frequency, basically, whether he was Real Boy Pinocchio or whatever, he's now an NPC. He's tuned to the frequency, getting the download, doing what the reality dictates, doing things in all of sports that somehow allows this ridiculous gematria to flow out over and over. So maybe from his perspective, he's really trying every time, but he's so on the page or tuned to the frequency, as is the pitcher, trying to strike him out, but so tuned to the frequency, so in love with being on the right page or the same page as the reality that they're not even aware. They become some sort of automatonic servant of the reality, if you see what I'm saying. So these are all possibilities. At the end of the day, we don't have to know all the answers. We have to keep the basics in mind for ourselves. There's a script that plays out here in this reality. A script that there's a dark force here that sees to this script of some kind and wants people to read their lines and take their cue cards. And at the very minimum, we know whenever possible to break the script. When C of the V came in early 2020, a script started to play out. This is a script that's now obvious for people like us to see. What was the script? Okay, it's going to develop this miracle renting of a Carl Weathers movie, Action Jacksonation. And then this script was about as hard as a script as we've ever seen in our lives. It wants you to rent. It put the Carl Weathers movie, Action Jacksonation, in everybody's mailbox. It needed you to rent that movie and then go rent Punky Boosta, and then Punky Boosta over and over and over again. Now, okay, there's many people listening to my voice that per their work, they work at a hospital group, whatever, they had to rent the movie, okay? They played out the script of what the dark reality wants. So should I be giving advice to them? No, I have a lot of flaws and problems and vices and things like that. But in this case, you played the script out and you did what the script wanted. Therefore, you have to work extra hard to break the script over here. I've said many times, no, it's not. If you renting the movie, it's not going to doom people. The one act of all the things they've done, all the tricks they've played throughout our entire lives, it all just comes down to renting the movie. And if you do that, you're doomed. Just a little squirt in the arm, you're doomed. No, it's not that simple. They would have brought that out 40, 50 years ago. We'd all be walking around with our arms out like zombies. No. And if that's the case, why do they continue to work so hard if renting of the movie just doomed anybody that got it? But if you played along and you went and you followed the script and you took their cue cards, said, I don't want to read these lines, but I have to keep my job. I have to read my cue cards. Then my advice, whether you want to take it or not, innately you better work harder in other places to break the script because you followed it in that instance. One instance isn't doom or damn anybody, in my opinion, although according to Half a BitChute, you're doomed if you did that. My buddy Greg, who I've mentioned a few thousand times, he per work injuries, what he did for many years on disability. Now, I don't think he would mind me saying that. He was forced into it. Every time I'm harassed. He did it. Guess what? Same old Greg. I don't call him up now. He doesn't call me and be like, hey, Matt, did you hear what my boy Biden said? You think my boy Biden's going to run in the next? He didn't change. Okay? It didn't. Well, Matt, it doomed him at the DNA. Okay. Enough said. They continue to work just as hard now as they did. It's even more comical now than they did before. It's collective. And you got to read cue cards over here. I think you got to make up for it over here with deed as well as with affirmations. Because there's a stranger little group that believes I'm Billy Corrigan. They're even stranger than the people that believe I'm Joe Rogan. It reminds me of the Smashing Pumpkins, what is it? Despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. The beginning of that song says, what is it? Secret destroyers hold you up to the flame. That's right. Yeah. I'll sing it just like Billy Corrigan. He can't sing. The world is a vampire. He can't sing. The world is a vampire set to drain. Secret destroyers hold you up to the flame. I remember talking about this song before. Yeah, the world is a vampire set to drain. No doubt about it. But the second part isn't right. Secret destroyers hold you up to the flame. No. You have to hold yourself up to the flame in this life, in this place. It's cumulative as well. Think the Not Nilk Chernobyl control centers, that person made one mistake, they're doomed. The world is a vampire set to drain you of your life energy, of understanding who you truly are, but nothing grabs you and holds you up to the flame. You got to hold yourself up to the flame. You got to build your own ladder and chutes and ladders up to the flame. Throw yourself in. That's what it tricks you. It's a master trickster, of course, but you have to do it to yourself in this life. There's no doubt about it. There are a few exceptions, of course, like 18-year-old kids that were, through patriotism, were convinced to go fight, and they were just thrown out on Utah Beach and machine gunned down in the first 20 seconds. And did that kid really have a chance? And did he really do it to himself? I mean, there are examples like that, of course, but for the most part, it plays its trick. And you have to do it to yourself. Well, what if we do it? What if that the no consequences people are throwing rubber duckies? Well, what happens if we succumb to the trick? What happens? Maybe I don't know if we're going to get to that here. That's another gigantic debate. I didn't want to really go here, but the world doesn't hold you up to the flame. You have to do it to yourself, and it's cumulative. Do you keep reading your lines? Do you keep reading your cue cards as all the people around us just keep doing over and over and over? And I struggle with the no consequences people who say there's no consequence spiritually to doing everything that Not Nilk wants. Ugh, really? What's it working so hard for? Like my dad, the other day, he'll praise Amazon. Oh, that Amazon is incredible. Matt, do you use it? We order one thing and it's there the next day. It's incredible. It's so good. He was going to throw himself down on his knees and just has a prayer rug to Amazon with a giant face of Bezos on it. He turns it not towards Mecca. He turns it towards Amazon headquarters in Seattle to pray to it. Matt, do you use that Amazon? Are you a Prime member? What is there? There's no consequence for people doing every little thing the Not Nilk wants, every step of their lives, every moment. What's it working so hard for? I don't know. One of the key points in a truth or progression is, are you noticing the script? Are you noticing the cue cards it's trying to shove and lines it's trying to shove in your hand? Or are you taking the bait, even on the truther side? We get into the world not being very real and endless gematria being thrown at me and endless coincidences and synchronicities. And look, there's the eclipse. So that's 1 in a trillion. All this stuff, So I'm going to spend years of my life researching certain topics, about physical things. Don't want to make too many more enemies than because this whole channel is like moving past all the stuff we've done for 10 years. You can see why I make enemies on all sides, because this channel is like saying, that all that research is kind of pointless. So you could see why I'm making enemies on all sides, people that want to protect the system's trick. So, I'm not going to research anything that's real. To me, it's all part of the reality trick. And some of these same groups in the truth community will acknowledge, will say, well, over here, yeah, this is dark magic. The gematria is impossible. The synchronicities are impossible. All the weird. But this over here that I'm researching, this is completely real. This completely happened. You can't have it both ways. If you're in Oz, you're in Oz. You can't be like, well, this Tin Man here is real. The rest of it is, this is a fantasy of some kind. It's a dream, and there ain't really no witch there that's going to... She ended up... She did... didn't she do Sanka or Maxwell House commercials, that witch, after that? You got to be real old to remember that. I remember that shit. Bounty, the picker-upper, was this woman at this counter named Rosie for like 15 years. Do they still do? There was this guy named Mr. Whipple. If you squeeze that Charmin, you just went in, like some pervert went in to just start squeezing toilet paper. You weren't going to buy anything. You're just there to squeeze Charmin. This guy, Mr. Whipple, was like hardcore. Remember who Marcellus Wallace got on Zed after Bruce Willis left? He was going to call a bunch of hardcore pipe hitting. They're going to come over with a blowtorch and get medieval on his ass. You squeeze that Charmin, Mr. Whipple would come over, be like, at the very minimum, he'd throw your ass out into the alleyway like Carlito. So what were we talking about? World as a Vampire. Yeah, what is it set to drain? The no consequences people would say, hey, you're spiritually protected. They generally agree, I believe, that you're a spiritual aspect of some part of you that's not here, was sent in here for whatever reason. If you make bad choices, the core essence of your, like the warp core in the Enterprise or something is protected. The warp core, the spirituality, the little piece of you could be potentially... Actually, the no consequences people would say even a little piece of you here is always spiritually protected. Then I would say, then what is it working so hard for? Why does it work so hard with endless tricks and deception? Thousands of deceptions daily that people buy into. What's it doing all that for? Well, it needs that to feed. That's its sustenance. That's its loosh. Well, okay, then what's the whole reality set up? For these minions are put here to play a role of some kind, and their reward is not like a bowl of life cereal like Mikey might want, but their reward is loosh of some kind, or the world is a vampire set to drain. Maybe they take energy, of course, and that's their reward. The way you'd throw like a tiger in a cage, like it's starving, some steak, and it would just pounce on it. That's what the George Bush creatures, I guess, do here. That's their reward for playing the asshole. Okay, and the real people, real spiritual beings provide that loosh when they buy into it, and they read their cue cards, and they read their lines, and they give the not milk reality what it wants. But it's like, I don't know. Like, what's the point then? Of all, I don't know. We're getting into some big things, and I'm sure I've written about this, and I don't think I'm prepared to talk about it on the fly. But the world is a vampire set to drain. Nobody would disagree with that. But the good news is, the world can be a vampire set to drain, and guess what? It's completely up to you. If you're going to give it what it wants, and if you got to give it what it wants over here, then you better make up for it over there. So this is a voice in the night, or a voice in the dark. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. And I'm speaking to you out there on your porch in West Texas. Uncle Hub, what's the other guy's name? Uncle Hub and Uncle Garth. Was that Michael Caine? Yeah, they're sleeping. You're out there, you're that little kid. I see dead people. That little kid who you're out there with the 5 dogs, and you think everybody's being snatched. And you find this radio station, and it's just there to tell you it's good news. It's good news. There's millions of us. There always will be millions of us. The cement has hardened on your cousins, but you know what? That means it's hardened on you as well. That's good. It's hardened where it can't get to you. You've made it through the danger zone. Is that what Highway to the Danger Zone was about? I don't think so, but it just popped into my head. If the cement's hardened, it's bad news for your cousin and your brother-in-law. Comes over, just raids your liquor cabinet, just rages and bitches about politics, and then sleeps drunk on your couch. I'm sorry for all that. The cement's hardened on those people. But the good news, it's hardened on you. It's hardened on the good way. What? Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack, and Wang just bought property on across the Great Wall, behind the Great Wall, on the good side. You hardened on the good side. It ain't going to be able to ever get to you unless you do some really stupid things and start engaging with its Ouija board on purpose. But I don't think any of us are going to do that. We'll lose a few people. We'll gain a few people. But it's nice to know there's millions of us out there. And you are not, even though you are pointed at by screaming Donald Sutherlands, you are not alone. And I just want to take it one step further. Anybody will just do a hug right now the way Matt Damon will just do at the end. It's not, and if, the situation you're in, we'll do the Matt Damon at the end with Robin Williams. If you're listening to the sound of my voice on Uncle Hub's porch, it's not your fault, son. It's not your fault. In fact, it's the opposite. You this effed up reality, use it for what you were here to do for yourself. Matt, you promised a serious presentation, S-E-R-I-O-U-S, not S-I-R-I-U-S, and it always breaks down to the absurd. It does break down to the absurd usually. It's the only way for me to stay the slightest bit sane. I'm sorry. Okay, but I believe what I'm saying here, as weird as it gets. I obviously have full conviction into what I'm saying. I don't believe this reality was hijacked, which is the truth or default. Oh, this was just a paradise, and these creeps hijacked it. Or the Lochnar analogy or metaphor is real, and evil traveled across the galaxy, and death followed. But that's from heavy metal. That's a line from the movie Heavy Metal. It wasn't hijacked. Before the hijacking and before these George Bush creatures came in, we're just laying under fruit trees in the beautiful sun, no tails of chemicals, beautiful skies, just you under a fig tree, butt-ass, naked and afraid, and here comes your friend or two, it doesn't matter what sex they are, with gigantic bottles of lube. That's all. Nobody learns anything at a place that just has fig trees and gigantic bottles of lube. Nobody learns anything spiritually or what they can take into the next 40 trillion years that way. Sorry. The world is a vampire set to drain, and the world is exactly, in my opinion, what's happening is exactly what's supposed to happen. What's happening is exactly what's meant to happen for you, if you choose to do this, to benefit the most. My father praising Amazon, I don't see him benefiting from the reality, but I don't believe they're doomed either. It could be young souls or other tests, but it's our time. It's our time to, what's that? I always say that it's from Longshanks. Yeah. There's never been a more ruthless king sit on the throne. It's not time to charge off into battle, Robert the Bruce. It's time to survive. This is not time to level up to 5D. It's time to hold on. This is the time in history, in my opinion, not to level up. Matt, don't you want to level up to 5D and fly up into the air like a Star Trek creature? No, it's time to survive and hold on to your spiritual essence. Circle the wagons, protect yourself. That is the time in history that we are in, or the epoch, or the era, or whatever. It goes back to soul tokens to a degree. Don't give any bit of yourself away. Circle those wagons. Be very conservative. Matt, that's you need to go jump into 5D here and fly up into the air like a Star Trek creature. Then I'm going to make the wrong choice, because I don't think that's what this reality's for. It's time to hold on. I can apply the Braveheart to this reality. Know that Longshanks is the most ruthless king ever to sit on the throne. And not any of us, none of us, or no, all of Scotland will survive unless we are as ruthless. That's good advice, even for us to a degree. This Not-Nilk here is the most ruthless Not-Nilk ever to sit on the throne. And we must be as ruthless to a degree, not taking the fight to it. That's what it wants. It wants you a pickup truck army going down with signs hanging out the windows and gun racks. It wants that shit. It wants January 6th shit, which... obviously, I think a lot of the people in there were probably just got caught up in it and were fooled, of course, although obviously we know there's nothing legitimate about anything that happened, but it wants that sort of thing. So we don't take the fight to it with pickup truck armies. We don't read its cue cards, don't read its lines, starve it, devoid it of energy, etc. This is all we can do. Make it into a laughingstock. Use your imagination. Imagine it being exposed. Imagine it as a laughingstock. Imagine it gets so pathetic that even the guy down the cul-de-sac will see right through it. All these are the techniques that we can employ, and the only techniques we have. How much of the truth community really believes their job is to fight it? I don't know. I don't watch these videos anymore. I don't know what goes on at BitChute or what. I don't know. But I would say most of them probably still believe their job is to fight it, and even physically, which is exactly what it wants. Thanks for listening.